Everybody, I want to make a video today about a video that I watched online. I'm sure many of you watched it too. It's very, very disturbing, very troubling, very hard video to watch. It's the video of Philando Castile, the young man that got shot and killed by the police officer up in Minnesota. If you don't recall the case, what happened was that he was pulled over for a minor traffic violation. He had a busted taillight. Police officer pulls him over. Very routine stop if you watch the video. Guy just asks him for his driver's license, registration, and during the exchange, Philando tells the officer that he has a firearm. The officer tells him not to go for it, and Philando still has his hand down, getting his information. Officer steps back and shoots him 4 or 5 times and kills him on the spot. I got a couple observations I'd like to make about the video. Like I say, very hard video to watch. First observation I'd like to make about the video is that, and by the way, the officer was found not guilty of manslaughter. Understandable. I get it. I mean, the officer was put in a position where a guy said he had a firearm. I'm sure once the officer heard firearm, he went in the defensive posture, put his hands on the sidearm, and that's all he was thinking. That's it. His mind went blank and said all he heard was firearm, which is a big, big problem. Second thing was Philando probably had his hand down by his side, complying with the officer's demands of information, and wasn't thinking either. Probably thought, my hand's down here by my side, I'm going to continue getting my stuff, and didn't hear what the officer said. The officer didn't hear what he said, and that's the result. He gets killed. And gets killed very, very violently. I mean, shot 4 or 5 times really quickly. I mean, not that the officer could have taken a step back and maybe threw his firearm and trained it on Philando. Man, he just opens up on him, which is a big problem. That's one of the reasons why I'm making this video. I mean, 2 things I would like to make, two observations I'd like to make about this video, about this case. Number 1 is the pulling over people for minor traffic offenses. Busted tail light. I think in the case in Cincinnati, Ohio, the guy didn't have a front license plate. These are very minor infractions, and to end up like this is you know, in my mind, big problem. Although I understand the police officer's position. I mean, you're walking up on a vehicle, you don't know who it is, you don't know what they've got. 99.9% of the time, probably nothing happens, but that 1% of the time, if someone does draw a firearm on you, you're in a bad situation, man. You're standing right there in front of the person. You got no place to run, and if they shoot you, you're probably going to get hit. So I can see that side of it too. But pulling somebody over for minor infractions, you know, I think becomes a training issue as far as looking at the bigger situation and realizing that this person, you didn't hear just a few minutes ago that somebody got shot up the street, and you're chasing down somebody that's, you know, that could be a potential killer. I mean, you're pulling over somebody that's in a car, driving with their girlfriend and their child. Probably not like a person that's likely to shoot you. So I think the officer really, really, really overreacted here. However, the officer had a reason to be concerned. So that's I can understand that. So driving around in a car that has some mechanical problems, like a bad tail light, or without even not mechanical, but just issues as far as license plate registration, stuff like that, can be hazardous to your health. So, you know, it's too bad, but people better hope that they have a working car, everything working properly on the car, because if they don't, you can get pulled over, and if you get pulled over, something like this can happen. Observation number 1. Just hoping people have not a reason for officers to pull them over. Observation number 2 on this is the carrying of firearms. Understandable, the Second Amendment, the ability, the right to own a firearm. I don't know if you don't really have a right to carry. Maybe you do. In some states you do. California, then carrying a firearm may be illegal, but in other states it may be. I see people in Arizona carrying a firearm, but in this day and age, just like with driving around with a vehicle that could be broken, carrying a firearm is probably not the best idea. open carry, concealed carry, I don't care. Anytime you're carrying a firearm, officers in this country perceive you as a threat. They perceive you as a threat because of their training. The training is anybody that presents any kind of threat to them, they're going to meet with intense force, possible deadly force. So if you're carrying a firearm or have a firearm or anywhere near a firearm, you're a target for the police. Not a good idea. The whole idea of carrying a firearm is probably long since passed away. We don't live in that day and age. We don't live in that time where it's probably a good idea to carry a firearm. I would never carry a firearm. Wouldn't even own a firearm. Although I don't have a problem with it and I'm not an anti-Second Amendment person, I think the idea of owning a firearm or carrying a firearm in this day and age with the mentality and training that the police have is not going to be in your best interest. Probably not something that you want to do. I mean, in this case where he actually complies with the law by telling him he has a firearm and the officer reacts that way, shows that the officer doesn't really think that anybody should be or have a firearm or should be around a firearm, because if that's the case, they immediately take that position. Hey, that's a threat, that's a threat, that's a threat, that's a threat. I need to be careful here. I need to open up. I need to, be ready to, to defend my life or to preserve my life. But like I say, in this case, I see the police officer's position too. Very bad, very sad situation. Anyway, I just wanted to make those observations. Actually, more than anything, I just wanted to talk about the video. It's a troubling video. And this is stuff I think people should talk about. The fact that the police officer was able to I wouldn't say get away with it, but found not guilty is understandable. I mean, I know a lot of people won't agree with that, but I kind of understand it. Although I do understand that he didn't do anything wrong either. He didn't deserve to die, and certainly didn't deserve to be shot and killed in the way he was. And the other thing that was interesting about this case, it was all live streamed over Facebook, a streaming video on Facebook. So very interesting situation, very interesting, very sad, very tragic. I feel bad for everybody in this situation. But like I say, two observations I'd like to make is, number one is the overreaction of the police by minor traffic infraction. The second one is that carrying a gun in this day and age is probably not the wisest thing to do. No matter how much you cherish your Second Amendment rights, no matter how much you feel you're entitled to a right to carry a gun, not a great idea. Especially given the way people perceive guns and the way guns are taken by the officers, police and law enforcement. So anyway, I appreciate you watching. Thank you very much.